I think
Like I don't even see any hit anywhere. So like
well, then
I don't
maybe you're
know.
not looking hard enough. Maybe that's the trick.
But sure. Oh, I sees one. I sees one.
See, I knew it.
I
I knew it.
found one. Oh, okay.
We didn't
All
record
right.
our intro. I forgot.
Okay, let's do it.
Maybe that'll
I
be
feel
our
like
intro. Carly, I found one. I found one. If you're wondering what Carly's talking about, we're talking about the DHP. Go to the DHP Facebook page, look at the cover photo, guys. They're doing a great Christmas giveaway. The post is listed down below, and yeah, it's a fun little giveaway. $300 prize at the end, given away on Christmas Day by our sponsors, Delaney Hockey Club.
you have to look for reindeer and they're hidden. But I found one hidden one, so
There you go.
does
Holly's not
it
going to get no sleep tonight. She's just going to be
yeah,
looking
I'm
for
staring
reindeer.
at it now.
Looking
It's
for
not that
reindeer.
big. I will say that like the reindeer is not too super small, so they shouldn't be too hard to find.
Ooh,
Jeez,
that's
now I got
just
to go in and do this now. I'm not getting
Mm.
no sleep.
no, Patty's gonna get no sleep on tonight, guys. We're gonna chat Leafs hockey tonight. We gushed on the Leafs last time, me and Patty, and tonight we're less gush, more realism. I think you don't win, you don't have points in 14 straight games by accident. So we'll chat a lot about what's going right for the team right now, and we were gonna introduce a new segment I think called Patty's Wish List. So without further ado, I think titter tatter, let's get at her. All right, guys. Welcome to episode 4 of the Deek Snipe Silly podcast with your hosts, Ryan Gates, that's me, Patty Phillips on the bottom, and the lovely Miss Kylie Murren there to my
Hello.
right, left. I don't even know. It's all mirrored.
I'm to your right on my screen, but I
Okay.
mean, who actually knows?
Who actually knows? And if you're listening to the podcast, you don't care, right?
No.
So, no, welcome back, guys. It's been a week. It's been a little bit longer than that since we've had Kylie on because the last one was just me and Patty. We did a little kind of a ease back into the Leafs being normal because our first one, it was pretty doom and gloom, right? Episode one?
Yeah.
Yes. Episode 1 was
We were
right
not
after the
happy.
California trip.
Yeah.
And there was no happy Leafs fans in the world after that one. So while I stand by everything I said, so I still don't think the team is perfect. However, currently they are playing.
They've been great.
They've been playing at a level.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really much that you can complain about as of late. I'm sure if you really wanted to be nitpicky, yeah, you'd find something. But
I don't know if
I
you
mean,
can actually. Like they're dominating. I'm sure we've had this
the
discussion
only
in the
the
chat.
only complaint I have, sorry to interrupt you though, on
Yeah.
that note, is just the taking stupid penalties. And whether that's a thing of the refs or that's just the Leafs. But I mean, they've been great killing those off. So
Yeah, they're really good, but like what I was gonna say is like they're dominating. I know we've seen glimpses of them dominating like November of last year when they got back on track again as well. But those games, if I seem to remember, they were still like high scoring games and a lot of run and gun hockey. Like
yeah,
this is far from run and gun hockey that they're playing. Is like really, really good cold handling, really, really good defense, leading to offensive chances, which is
yeah,
the recipe of winning in the NHL is like
exactly.
scoring out the rush and those types of things. They're killing up the penalties. And you know what? Like some would say, because it's happened to us in the past with Freddie and Jack and Cujo back in the day that our goalies have had to stand on their heads. Other than the Dallas game, which actually I didn't think was a true 44 shot save performance. I didn't think there was a lot of dangerous shots. They did outplay us. I don't know if the two boys have had to stand on their heads like where we've had a lot of defensive mistakes. Like that they've
Nope.
done really, really well. I got no issues with the team whatsoever. My only thing is more scoring depth, but what team has a
Yeah,
ton of scoring
in
depth?
a salary cap era type thing that we're
Yeah.
dealing with right now, like
But I
most
don't
teams got those couple overpaid, I can't say overpaid, but those well-paid superstars and then the supporting cast.
and I can't recall a period where maybe I'm might lose my mind or whatever that all four of our stars have been totally on for a
Oh,
long period of time.
if
Like,
anything, you could say John Tavares has been kind of quiet compared to the other three, but I mean, he's still making
so
such an impact.
yeah, I
He
think it's
might
the
not
best
be
that
on
we've
the score
seen.
sheet, but I know he did probably get obviously a couple assists. I don't even know, honestly.
No, he didn't. He in the last game
He
when
then, yeah, I know the last game with all those goals, he didn't get in on any. So,
yeah,
but either way,
he's still
like I
been
said,
dominant
making an
all
impact.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That Calgary game was a little, I mean, I couldn't really watch it. We were at a party and I was watching it on my phone, so I couldn't really hear it, you know. But that was a little bit of a gong show from what I did see on all the highlights and whatnot. But we can't expect Murray to be perfect all the time. And the boys just managed to pull out a win, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I'm echoing everything you guys say, so I'm not going to say it all again. But the one thing that Patty mentioned that I've been talking about for better part of all last year, even when they were playing well, I talked about it. When they were not, I talked about it. Is that scoring off the rush thing? Like too many times, and I mean, yes, they did it with some success. Clearly, they were a great 5-on-5 team last year, and I mean, they did make the playoffs. But most of the goals were, they'd set up around the perimeter and they'd move it around. They, there was tips and there was scattered dirty goal last year, which was new. I mean, they Nylander was suddenly in the last couple of years have become that net front presence, which no one thought that was even remotely possible. But they weren't scoring off the rush,
No,
and your most high danger chances are going to come on 2-on-1s or 2-on-2s or pretty passing plays or whatever it is. That's where you're going to get your opportunity, and we just haven't been doing that at any, not for any amount of regularity. We'll say. I mean, yeah, they
mm-mm.
scored the odd one here and there, but in this last stretch, man, when
Yeah,
you
and it's
when
been
you
working.
when you turns it over on the blue line for the Leafs, you're in a world of hurt, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
watch out.
It's a bad place to be. So
For so echoing what you're talking about there, like for so long, they'd get to the damn center line and dump it in, dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase,
yeah,
and just try to set up and do their little set plays, and it was not working. Five players were collapsing in that traffic area in front of the net, and you're not getting anything through. They try to feed a pass through six bodies, and like it's just not going to work. But now, like I said, coming in after rush, that Matthews and Nylander goal their last game, I think that was on the power play, but it's still same idea. It came off the rush, two of them in, like Matthews assisted on his own goal. Perfect,
yeah.
right? Two
It's
on
a
one
really
or whatever
balanced
it was.
attack. I
It's
like
been working.
yeah.
all of them are going. Like, I have so much confidence in Willie Nylander right now.
5 point night, like, and
Yeah,
he don't even look like he's breaking a sweat.
I know,
Like it's just,
but
the
we've
He,
been
flow
saying
is
that all along.
going.
he
He's
does he
so
And
doesn't he
talented.
doesn't look like it, but man, he is putting the
he's,
work in,
oh,
eh?
yes.
Yeah.
And like seeing him back check, and I'm just
Mm.
like, who is this Willie? Like, this is a different Willie. And I honestly, I think it's just maturity. They were talking about it today on Leafs Lunch, and they had a clip from Sheldon Keefe, and pretty much like he always used to need to be kind of pushed. And there's been none of that this year. And he said, like, the players are kind of just feeding off each other and pushing each other. And is exactly what's happening. And it's been really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, you can take this soundbite to the bank, but I can't get enough Willie.
Oh, I love him. Yeah, he's my
Yeah.
fave.
Oh,
I
That's a
this
good
is gonna
one. That's a
we're
good
slow
one.
clipping this one.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's too
If
late
you
for me
don't
now.
die him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, realistically, I'm not even kidding. Like, I longs for him to come back on the ice after his shift is over. Because now he's playing with Matthews, so I mean, like, that's not a bad thing either. So you're always wanting Matthews to come back over the boards, but like Nylander, and we shouldn't be shocked because ever since he came into the league, he's been that puck possession guy. Like when he
He's
gets the
so
puck, he
strong.
keeps it,
The
right?
way he can like push people off, and then it just looks so effortless. He's like holding the stick with one hand and he's just pushing the puck along. Like, it's
I mean, well,
amazing.
like I mentioned, I don't know if it was in the group chat or if it was in one of the private chats with one of you guys. I can't remember, or maybe it wasn't even you guys at all. Irrelevant. I mentioned it a couple of days ago in one of the chats that you know Willie is kind of on pace for 50 goals,
I know, insane.
right?
I'd love
Like,
for him to get it.
Oh, it'd be great.
I'd actually be more excited for him to get it versus Matthews because you knew Matthews was going to get it eventually, and he don't get crapped on like Nylander has. Like, you
No,
imagine that contract now is 6.9 million. I
what a
still say it's
steal.
the
I've
biggest
always
steal in
said
the
that one's
NHL right
great.
now.
I always
But
knew he was going to be something, just whether or
yeah,
not it was with the Leafs. But I'd always relate back to, well, Dubas said as long as he's in charge, William will not be traded.
Yeah.
and he stuck to that promise so
Well,
far.
why would
So
you? I mean, look at the
at this
upside.
point, you're
I,
silly.
I can't remember who said it, but when he was drafted, someone made the comment because he was drafted, and then he came over and he played a little bit in the AHL with the Marlies, right?
Yeah.
And I got a few glimpses of him downtown when the St. John's Ice Caps were here and everything else. And I can't remember which celebrity it was who made the comment, but it said William Nylander has dominated at every level of hockey he's ever played.
Yeah.
Even the year he
Yeah.
played pro overseas with his old man, he dominated.
Oh,
And he started
speaking,
playing well in the AHL, and I mean, he's dominating now in the NHL. That's
yeah,
his MO, right?
right.
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, speaking of his dad, he's already tied his dad or surpassed his father for multi-goal games, and his dad's played like 900 games in the NHL.
Yeah, he was a
And his
like I don't.
father was a good player too,
Yeah,
right? You can't knock him.
Willie
So,
Different
has
kind of
just the
player, though.
ability to dominate on a regular basis. That
yeah,
I don't think you can push him off the puck. Um,
not very
Up to four,
often.
he's probably the strongest. Matthews is pretty. I don't
The
know. He's
legs
just
on him, sure.
yeah.
I'm
You
going
got
to
tree
stop the
trunks.
podcast right here. I'm going to stop it right here. This is the longest podcast in the NHL this week that anybody's went without talking about Mitch Marner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really though. We're
So
just
let's
loving on Willie
no,
here.
yeah, Willie. We loves a bit of Willie around here, but I mean, we got to talk about Mitch, right? Like we got to. I mean,
Yeah.
Just insane.
I mean, is he right now? Is he today the best player in the NHL?
I don't know. He's up there. I mean, I know you're always going to have the Connor narrative.
McDavid.
You
Yep.
can't you can't knock Connor, obviously, but sometimes you do have to recognize that there's players that are just as good, but in different ways. Mitch Marner also plays defense, and I know they had McDavid out. I seen him on the PK in a game probably last week we were watching. So I'm like, oh, okay, he's getting some defense time or defense. You know what I mean? Power play, My God, penalty kill time. But no, Mitch Marner. I mean, he's 5-on-5. Even just the way he can back check and steal that puck, and he's
He
been
dominates in every facet of the game. He
every
is strength, power
single.
play,
Yeah.
PK. That to me is a definition, and he actually, obviously he produces or whatever. He's a definition of an MVP for me. I know McDavid, and
I've said that.
it'll be the crux of the rest of his career. Will be it's always McDavid's trophy to lose.
Lose.
I really hate the argument that, well, what would Edmonton be without McDavid? Well, that's the case for a lot of teams. Probably not Toronto because they're depth, but
Yeah.
for a
But
lot of teams,
I tell you one thing: Toronto without Mitch Marner is a different looking club,
no
Oh
doubt.
God, yes.
right? And that's why the question of the year, which I'll stop asking it in 2023, the question of the year that I always ask is if you had to choose Marner or Matthews today. We asked last week, and everyone's kind of wish-washy. If you had to choose today to sit one player, who are you going to pick?
I still
I've-
can't choose.
I'm still taking Austin.
You're gonna play Austin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Over Mitch Marner currently today. If they had a game
I'm
tonight,
still,
Well,
it's
This is like the friggin' power rankings.
That's like I said last time. It's like trying to get me to choose between my two dogs. Like, come on, you choose between your two boys.
oh, I mean, come on now.
Like that's how
I mean,
it feels. So I don't expect
clearly
you
I'm going to take
to.
Vincent.
But like
I'm
you know,
kidding. I'm kidding,
I
Patrick.
know, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
But you know, I don't actually expect someone to answer that. But thank you, because I wouldn't be able to. I'm right. Say hi. But clearly one is obsessed with me more than the other. But yeah, it's just too hard to pick.
Yeah,
It's too
well,
hard to pick.
for me, I've always been Marner. I've always been Camp Marner when it comes to his overall impact on the team. Because like I've made the point before many times, I don't think Matthews scores 60 or even close to it without Marner. And that's been Matthews' thing all along, is that, you know, he's relied heavily on Mitch Marner. I think that Matthews may rewrite that script this year if he stays on the line with Willie again. That's gonna be the interesting part for me, because he's on a roll right now. Like once he broke that bubble, he's had a goal per game for the last 7 out of 8, was
games,
it?
I
8
think. I
games.
think it's 8 or something. Yeah,
So I
it's
mean,
been
like
crazy.
suddenly, like the people who had a 10-goal lead on him in the scoring race are like 4 goals ahead of him.
That's
like,
how it was last year. I keep
Same
seeing
thing.
memories.
That gap keeps going.
Getting smaller and smaller. He hasn't had many multi-goal games, but they're coming.
Yeah.
Well, back to Mitch for a second. Like the knock on Mitch for so long has been prior to last year, because he started to shoot last year, but it was the fact that he never
goals.
shot. He was pass first. And I think that's part of, or a big part of the reason why he's so successful is now the opposition, the defense. Well, is Mitch going to pass? Is he going to shoot? What's he going to do?
There's not
You
many
don't
times
know.
as a Leafs fan when I've been watching the game. There's a few, and most of them have all been in the Matthews Marner era, where when they score a goal, I'm just sitting there with my jaw hanging open.
I'm freaking out.
The one that I remember for a couple of years ago was remember the spinorama pass
Yeah.
across
Carolina.
ice.
Yep, Carolina,
Amazing.
Tibbs
Like
Eve,
I
next
was just
gen
there
game.
like I was just so blown away. The other night on that clap bomb that Marner had stepping in over the blue line, I was like,
He hasn't
Who
done that
is
before.
this?
I've never
No.
seen it. Not from him. Not to just
Like-
step into one and just like
like-
rip it.
What else does he have
It
in
was
his
crazy.
toolkit? Because he does stuff like the dangles, like something new every night. But when he starts again, the clap bombs just over the blue line, it's like he don't do that stuff.
I didn't
I'm
think he
willing to
was
bet he never
strong
did it
enough.
junior.
Like, I mean, I shouldn't say that because he's a pro player, but like when you think about guys who can really rip it, they're usually the big, burly, guys
Yes.
like Ovechkin, Stamkos, guys built up, like not bigger body guys, but just like, noticeably stronger. Not the miniature playmaker that Marner is. I mean, he's a small guy, right? By stature. I mean, he just absolutely unloaded and beat him clean
Yeah.
too. Like there was no screen, no nothing, just ripped it.
Yeah, I don't.
Mhm.
I don't think he expected that. That was the thing, right? I don't
Celebration
think the goalie,
or the
Jonathan
lack.
Quick, wasn't it? Was that the LA game? Pretty sure
Uh,
it was.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Was it the LA game?
yeah, it
But
was. I think.
yeah, but I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Sorry, but yeah, I don't think the goalie was expecting that because it, like you said, it is Mitch Marner, and he typically don't shoot like that.
All I was going to say was the part that I loved the most about the goal, aside from the goal itself, was the lack thereof celebration. He just
Oh yeah,
he just rips it home. And he's like, just cold face, stone face, kind of like, that's right.
I think
You're
even
Marner's
he was
house now.
shocked. Yeah, I think even he was shocked, honestly, because that was just like, whoa.
Like right now, McDavid's got a 19 point, or is it 21? No, 19-point lead over Marner. Like in order for Marner to be in consideration for the MVP, he do have to tighten that gap, no doubt.
I think he should be up for the Selke,
I think that's
that's-
automatic.
right? He always gets votes, but
Yeah.
I really do think he should be
Well,
consideration.
I
this
think
this year,
That's his to win this year. His to lose, I should say.
Yeah.
well, I mean, they're playing him as a defenseman sometimes. Like, what else? Like, how many other forwards in the league are getting actively played as a defenseman in certain situations?
Did you guys catch the graphic? I think it was last game. Yeah, I feel like I was watching it on my phone, so it must have been last game. They had, I don't know how they measure this, obviously some crazy stats, but it, like analytics or something, but it said most defensive like forwards in the NHL, and we had 3 of the top 5.
Wow.
It was Matthews was first for most defensive touches or something per game as a forward. Matty was first, Mitch was second, and we had David Kemp, I think might have been 5th or something, if I'm not
Surprised.
mistaken, or 4th. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Wish I could find
Camp,
it.
man.
He don't get it. I love that they give him the belt like a few games ago. I think it was Murray give it to him and saying that like he deserves the recognition because how good he plays defensively.
Yeah.
And I feel like he don't get the love that he should get because he don't score a whole lot. I mean, think
That's-
about that goal he did score though a couple games ago. That was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does
Oh,
show up sometimes.
It's funny. I don't watch
On
all
the
the
score sheet.
all the LFRs with Steve Dangle, but I do tune in sometimes. And I think it might have been that game. Steve made a comment, and I got to agree with him. He said if they think Kyle Dubas when he acquired David Kampf thought that Kampf might have some untapped offensive ability that just hasn't gotten there yet.
Mhm.
And Steve said yeah, he does. Just tell David to play even strength like he does on the PK because
Yeah.
he's a threat on the PK, but he goes it around the 3rd or 4th line and like it's like okay, like he's not a liability or anything like that, but like he like when he's killing penalties, man, I expect him and Marner or him and or Engvall to score
Every
think-
time.
Yeah.
I don't
It's-
even really get like I used to get half pissy when we would get obviously penalties, but not even here lately. It's always been a great like shorthanded chance. At least once every penalty kill.
Oh, we led the league in shorthanded goals last year.
Yeah,
Now
not surprised.
our
This year hasn't
PK,
been.
yeah, our PK's changed a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, we did lose
it's way different now. Mikheyev was.
Mikheyev as a big knock,
Yeah.
and um, who else was it by? There was somebody else. Okasha used to kill the odd penalty, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, yeah, whenever he was
Yeah, but I
healthy.
wouldn't really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. He wasn't there all the
He's
time.
out right
Mikheyev
now
is the-
again. Hey.
Mik- yeah,
Injured.
Mikheyev is the biggest loss there, and
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh
my
yeah, he's doing great in Vancouver too.
yeah,
So I
my
mean,
only
good for
my
him.
only concern with the Leafs continues to be how do you replace that guy in scoring, and I just bring on Ryan O'Reilly. Just saying, but whatever. I know they're not the same type of player. But if we go
Bring
to
him on
if
anyway.
we go to this is going to be the new segment on the on the show is Patty's wish list as
Yeah.
we near the March trade deadline, and it's this week is Ryan O'Reilly.
All right.
I feel like
You know, I loves a good segment, boys. I loves incorporating a good segment. You know,
Yeah.
off topic with
Patty's
Kylie
wish
Murn
list.
is she
Yeah.
hasn't been as off topic lately as usual.
no,
but anyway,
I've been staying on track.
it's weird, actually, kind of freaky. But Patty's wish list. There you go. Welcome to Patty's wish list. Patty, why Ryan O'Reilly?
No brainer. He brings it all. Like that defensive element, which would flow so nice with the team this year. They're also defensively responsible. I think he'll pot the odd goal. I don't think he's going to scare anybody with points or whatever. He's that captain. He's still young. He's only 31. I believe he's a Toronto boy. So it all comes to pieces. It's a younger, probably healthier version of Nick Foligno.
I was just gonna say this reminds me of a
Yeah.
Nick Foligno trade,
Like,
captains and
And
trade
he's
deadlines.
UFA. St. Louis are not in it this year.
No,
I
they've not
can't
been good.
imagine they're going to re-sign him back. Probably wouldn't be cheap to get him. Probably a similar package to what it would be for Nick
Oh,
Foligno.
First rounder all day long.
Yeah.
sure.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What's his salary though?
he's in this.
No, I know we'll have LTIR built up and
Oh
whatnot.
my God,
but
salary
should
oddly enough
collapse.
shouldn't even be an issue for us this year.
no,
No.
not with the injuries.
I
we've
can't
had.
see
He's
Muzz
seven.
coming back. Period. So,
Yeah. He's in the
I don't-
seven and a
Muzz
half.
is
I
not.
think.
Is he? Yeah, Muzzin is definitely not coming back. I don't think so. I'd be
No.
very surprised. But I mean, at this point, let's go off topic and talk about Riley for a second. At this point, would you keep him? Like, I know we still need, like, we can't rely on the depth that we have. You would need
Would you
to
keep
bring
who?
in
Would you keep
Morgan Riley. At this
Oh my
point,
God,
seeing what
yes.
you've seen, you'd still keep him.
Oh
Just
God.
if you could trade him for somebody who could play left wing up with Johnny and Mitch.
No.
And okay, let's
Okay,
say
well,
you
let-
could
let
get
me-
let's say you could get a mediocre player and a good depth defenseman.
Absolutely not.
No?
It's
I've just
hard-
seen so many like trade
'Cause
proposals
if
and
that was
stuff
the
lately,
case-
and I've just been curious.
If that was the case in the late 90s or early 2000s, when Sundin went down against the Islanders, and I think he missed the next series against Ottawa, and then he went in and played Carolina, and he came back, and then it seemed like all McCauley was there, and geez, I think Sullivan maybe, and Stevie Sullivan or whatever. But I know McCauley went on a bit of a tear that year in the playoffs, and their performance just dropped right off when Sundin came back. So if that was the case, Sundin would have gone years ago.
I guess so, if you look at it that way.
Morgan Raleigh is by far our number one defenseman.
Oh, I mean, I'm a big
Yeah.
Riley fan. I've always been, but at this point, I don't want them to take Sandine off the first power play. And I
No.
feel like, I mean, Riley's good, but on the power play, he's just really, he lacks creativity and he's just so predictable. He just shoot, like, I don't know. I just feel like Sandine's has been a lot better on the power play than what Riley was.
I think the no-brainer question is, yeah, you keep him because everyone needs a number one defenseman.
Yeah.
However, the fact that it's even up for discussion,
It's
amazing.
very interesting for sure.
it's amazing because like he's been out for a substantial amount of time.
We haven't lost a game.
We haven't lost. We haven't missed him.
No.
Right? It's not like you're like,
But-
oh, you know, Raleigh would have closed off that gap. You know,
Yeah.
he would have kept. He would have.
Like, what does he do that, let's say, Sandine or even Liljegren can't do?
Can't.
Well, the big difference of what you're seeing now with Raleigh gone versus when he comes back is when Raleigh is there, he's the one that has to. It's a human nature thing. He's the one with the responsibility. The
Mhm.
fact that he's gone, all these guys have had to take on added responsibility.
Oh, definitely.
Become a little bit more mature. So there's a part of that, the fear of when these star players come back, because it used to happen when Sundin was out
Yep.
many years ago, is that all these guys had to step up, and when the big boy is back, well, they say, okay, maybe we can ease back
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit. That stuff happens, but the way I
good
see it, when your
news-
star player is out over a long period of time, what the Leafs are doing right now. I don't know if that defense is sustainable with your number one defenseman. Maybe it is,
Yeah, who knows?
but
But
I'd
the
much
scary
rather
thing
have
is,
him in the lineup.
yeah, oh, 100%. But the thing
Yeah.
is, like, if let's say he was out for the season, God forbid, knock on wood or something, and let's say one of Sandine or Liljegren or Brody goes down again, that's when it gets scary because other than what's his name, Ben, like who else do we? Hallowell? What Hallowell? Is it Hallowell?
Oh
Yeah,
well,
it
yeah.
gets mixed up in him and
There's
Holmberg.
Good.
Hallowell played pretty well.
there's a name you guys haven't mentioned, and you should be dragged out and horsewhipped for it. Is Mark Giordano.
Oh
Oh,
my God, he's
Because
been.
you talk about people stepping up,
I don't even
and
think about him getting injured. He's just like Superman
I mean, like, if you were to told me that Giordano was going to play at the level he's playing at currently, I'd
at
say
his
no,
age.
no, no. I mean, he's dialed the clock back. Like he's playing a physical game. He's playing an incredibly good defensive game. He's not taking a lot of tough penalties that you're like, oh man, like there's not a lot of that. Now he does take the odd one, but I mean, so does any of the other defensemen at the
Justin
NHL.
Hall
Yeah,
throwing the puck
that
like a
was hilarious.
friggin' lunatic. I think he thought he was playing baseball for a minute,
But
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 yeah, that
no, I
was.
mean, Gio is the one who shouldered, I think, the biggest responsibility of
Yep,
holding that D core together.
yep.
And man, I mean, if Riley's worth 9 million, Gio's worth
Right?
7. We got him for
God love
800.
him.
not the
God
million
love
dollar
him.
that he's making or what. Like, I think the biggest task that Keith has in the next few weeks is when Raleigh do come back.
Yeah, what do
He
you do?
he figures what I don't know. I wouldn't know how to do it. So how does he keep that group of 6 still motivated, still maintain the same responsibility?
I
Because
know.
Stanley Cup winning teams, all 6 have maintained that responsibility, whether you're in the top pairing or the bottom pairing. They both pairs go on the ice, assuming they have a lot of responsibility right now. That's kind of been the Leafs' problem over the years. Keith's got to coach to that somehow. Um,
I
but
think you go with Riley Brody because we know that
yeah,
works. It's always been a great pair. You keep your Geo and your Hull together, and you got your Sandine and your Liljegren. But
and still got
I'd
Timmins
swap
there.
those lines. Yeah, but Timmins is there for depth at this point, same as Jordy Ben.
Yeah.
So, because at this point we've needed one, and every game it feels like someone has gone down. Like last game, Malgin was hurt. Now I think he was okay afterwards. I think he was practicing today. But yeah, it's great to have those guys. And then if we got to swap them out whenever someone's maybe you just got to give Gio a break at some point. Like I think
Yeah.
that's probably what you do soon as you do get Riley back in a regular rotation because I think you're going to ease him into the
Well,
lineup. But
the other, I wouldn't say the nice thing. Well, maybe it is the nice thing about seeing some of these defensemen go down, like your top pairings. No difference than last year when the Leafs, when Mrazek went down. You know what you got in the system now. You know what you have in Shalgren. Now
yeah,
you know what you have in depth. Like the Dubas trade for Timmins, GM of the year, just for that move. How
he's
he's
been fine.
unable, how
Yeah,
he's able to offload Curtis Douglas, who will never play in the NHL. He may not play with that. Well, he may play with Arizona.
right.
And
But
Never
how
play with
you're
the Leafs.
so.
he won't make our team.
But begs the question though. So if the Leafs can slot him in, I know they've had injury problems. Arizona couldn't find a spot for Timmins in that lineup. There had to be
They got a lot of good
someone that they
defensemen
could have
though.
waived other than him.
All right, like they got Chicherin, they got Gothisbehere, they got like I don't know. At this
I
point,
don't
maybe
know.
they probably had already given up on Timmins at this point. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
probably
And
more of
got
it.
their young kids in or something.
But he's still so young. Like, isn't he like
Yeah,
20?
he's not.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
I
never.
feel like he's 20, what, 4 or
I
something?
think he was
Why
the
do I
Matthews
think that?
draft, wasn't it?
Right? I think yeah, I thought he was like Mariner's age. What's his first name?
Connor.
Connor.
Connor McDavid.
No, we have
Who
our
we
own
traded for?
Connor.
Ian Wilman.
2017, he's 24. Yeah, I thought I'd looked that up.
Okay.
He's 24. So yeah, he's not old, but who knows?
He was in the
They do
Liljegren
have
draft, right? Because there was
Right,
talks
right.
he might.
2017.
Yeah,
Yes, it was something to
You're
do.
right.
yeah.
We were
Because
looking at him or
there was
something.
talks he might be in and around that slot where the Leafs picked, and then Liljegren fell like 10 spots, and everyone was like, "Oh my
Because he
God, I
was.
can't believe we got Timothy Liljegren." And
Did
then
you
after that,
hear that story about him? Like how that all happened? He had mono
yeah,
in
Oh
his
yeah.
draft year, and he missed a bunch of time, and he wasn't himself, and he ended
He
up
was ta-
dropping right. He was touted as a first like overall
first
pick.
overall. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was crazy. I was reading that about him not too long ago, and I was like, wow, I did not know that. I just wasn't following the team as much back then because
Yeah.
that's back when we were
they
drafting all the
sucked.
sick kids. Because Riley was the same thing. And
Yeah,
the funny part is,
we'll take it.
Morgan Riley actually turned out to be the best player of that draft.
There
Well,
you
Maybe not
go.
the
remember
best
what Burke
player, but he
said.
was the best player in the top 5 in that draft. That was the Yakupov year, right? So
Yeah, and I think Galchenyuk was just before. Yeah,
Galchenyuk,
Galchenyuk was just
Ryan
before
Murray.
Raleigh, I think. But you know what? I always laugh back at Brian Burke quotes because I take him with a grain of salt. And to this day, he will say Raleigh was the one. If he had to pick first overall, they would have taken Raleigh. And maybe he was truthful. I don't always believe what comes from his mouth, but he's always said he wanted Raleigh at number one. And
Oh,
who
well,
went
worked
number
out for
two that year?
us.
Ryan Murray, I
Ryan
think.
Murray, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, never panned out to be near the defenseman everyone thought he was going to be, right? He had a solid
Yeah.
World Juniors and all that good stuff leading up. But anyway, long story short, we have drafted incredibly well in the first round anyway, and we've had some decent second rounds. We're not at a Dallas level of drafting yet. Holy crap! But
I know. That was crazy when I seen that
yeah.
graphic.
But then again, I don't think anybody on the planet would have took Nick Robertson or Jason Robertson to be doing what he's doing now. I mean, that's just insane, right? And I don't think it's sustainable either, mind you.
No, you know what? Like the whole idea of drafting Detroit were known as strong drafters for years of drafting. Like it was Datsuk and Zetterberg really late and those types of things. I'm not convinced, especially in this era, with all the technology and all the scouting groups and all this kind of stuff, that there's a player out there that's hidden that a team says, oh yeah, we'd probably take him in the second, but we're going to wait to take him in the seventh. That doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it happened many years ago with the internet and all these kind of things that you'd find these hidden gems. I think it was more of a stroke of luck than anything else.
Oh, 100%. Not even more of a stroke. It was 100%.
I just don't. You just don't. I don't know. It's yeah. I don't buy all this stuff. Like they lucked out for many years, especially Detroit, because they were winning. They were at the top of their game, and they were still drafting really good, which kept the system going in their success.
The catch with Detroit at that time too, they were drafting foreigners when a lot of teams weren't.
Right.
So like Russians like Datsuk were slipping to the sixth round, and I don't know if it was Illich or anyway, one of the big dogs there in Detroit made the comment one time when they were talking about the Zetterberg and Datsuk draft. He's like, yeah, I don't want to give away trade secrets here, but do you think we would have waited till the sixth round if we knew Datsuk was that good?
Yeah.
So like clearly
so
no.
Stupid, right? Like
right.
And the other thing that I saw this week, just throwing out tidbits now, it was the graphic where I'll never pronounce his last name. The Russian kid, please just call up.
Oh, Dragochensev.
Oh, SDA.
Yeah, that guy. So Dubas trades, what was the 25th pick, trades down his typical Dubas fashion, trades down and gets 2 seconds, I think. Was it a first and a second rounder or something like that? So he trades a guy, never played the game in the NHL. The 2 picks end up being Sandin and our new Russian buddy.
You know what? It doesn't always work out like that, though.
No.
I did hear that same thing the other day, and I instantly thought about Jeremy Bracco and Travis Dermott. Do you remember who we traded down to get those? You remember who was picked in that slot? Because it haunts me at night. I will tell you, the Philadelphia Flyers in our spot drafted Travis Konechny. Yeah.
Wow. So it's all a crapshoot.
So I remember watching the draft, and I'm thinking to myself, because, you know, I like I always did back then. I don't do it nearly as much as I used to, but back when we sucked real bad, I mean, I studied the projected first-round players to a hilt, especially the guys who were down in and around where the Leafs would be drafting. And I remember Konechny still being available, and it's coming up. I'm like, we're going to get this kid, and he's a little firecracker. He's a good little hockey player, right? And I was real excited. That's when we have a trade to announce. I was like, do not trade down. Then they traded down, only to draft Travis Dermott and Jeremy Bracco, which I thought after the trade was done, I was like, you know what, these guys might pan out. And Bracco became one of my guys. I followed Jeremy Bracco all the way through, and has he played a game in the NHL yet? I don't know. Probably not. Dermott never, ever reached his ceiling, I don't think. I always thought he had that extra 2 or 3 gears that he could have gotten to, but he just never did. You know, I really thought he could be a steady second pair defenseman who could put up some offensive numbers, and he just never just kind of fizzled. So it don't always work out, but that one seems to be looking real good right now. That Sandin and SDA trade. So
it's to the point now with, you know what, if you can trade for players and whether they're going to be stars or not, if they can get NHL games in, that's a big deal. So the fact that these guys, Sandin has had a bunch of NHL games, and this guy in St. Louis don't. Like it's almost kind of a win right away.
Mhm.
And it all depends on the system you're into. See, this is the problem, right? Like the St. Louis system has been flush with defensemen. Or was it a defenseman that they drafted in St. Louis? I think it was.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Don't quote me on this, but I think it was. But if it was, I mean, it is a product of their system because they were flush with great defensemen for a lot of years. So developmentally, is he going to crack the lineup when you got guys like friggin' Alex Pietrangelo there at that time? You know, like and I mean, they had a litany of good guys who won a cup with him for frig's sake. So I hate to write a kid off too based on where he's playing, but right now, yeah, no, it looks like a great trade. I mean, straight up, this kid in St. Louis for Sandin might end up being a great trade. So if you end up with another piece. But back to the Timmins thing, when the trade was made, I mean, let's forget the fact that he has already played NHL games for the team and won in all of them and picked up a point in one of them. We'll splash all that. I thought it was a great trade if Timmins plays for the Marlies. You know what I mean? Like the trade of Curtis Douglas, who was third line center for the Marlies, for a right shot defenseman with a lot of high end upside if he's healthy. I was like, yeah, all day long for the Marlies. So if he plays any time with the Leafs whatsoever, again, it's right up there with that Lyubushkin trade there the other year. They got Lyubushkin out of Arizona for who cares? It wasn't anything. Like and he came
Nick
over.
Ritchie, wasn't it?
Yes, he was part of the. Was he part of the? Yes, he was. They dumped the contract. Kyle Dubas dumped the contract and got back a defenseman who ended up playing in the top 4 for the majority of the time. He played on Riley's right side for a while.
He did, yeah.
So like I looked at that trade last year as Dubas's best work to date because it was low key, high impact, right?
Yeah.
You trade a guy who's underperforming for your team for a guy who was rough and tumble right into the playoffs. So he was not a problem for the Leafs first and last. I was sad to see him go. Actually,
Same.
I think we need to get a GM on here because one of the things that just boggles my mind is how Dubas can pull off a trade like he just did for Timmins. I would find it hard to believe this day and age that another 15 teams didn't see the upside in Timmins, that they were willing to take a flyer on him. And they weren't able to offer something better than Douglas. So I'm wondering, does relationships with other GMs, is it Bill Armstrong?
Oh,
Bill
yeah,
Armstrong,
I think
that's
so.
a big thing. Like, I think I think we're after doing Arizona a couple of favors.
Yeah.
Who was the goalie that we took off their hands last year?
They took our goalie.
We've had a great relationship with Los Angeles.
Had this little guy from
and Phoenix. I can't believe actually that the Chychrun trade hasn't happened in Toronto's favor yet, and I'm surprised it hasn't. I got a funny feeling that it's just either too rich for Dubas, or I'm sure that the conversation's been had, and I'm guessing. This is just a guess, mind you. I'm guessing that they wanted either a Nick Robertson or a Timothy Liljegren or something like that. And if you got to be trading an active roster player at this point in the season, to me, I don't care what you're getting back. You don't want to mess that chemistry up too much if you haven't got to. Yeah. Especially impact guys like Liljegren. To me, while Sandin's been great, I wouldn't trade Timothy Liljegren right now for. There's a lot of players that would pass my door before I'd say, yeah, no, we'll let him go, because I just think he's been fantastic. He's night in, night out. He's not, after a goal scored and they pans the camera right to the guy who made the mistake. It's never Liljegren. Ever. Ever. He can get the shot through from the point as good as anybody. He reminds me of Cody Franzen. That's my only plus side on Cody Franzen when he was a Leaf. He could get the shot through almost every single time. Yeah. Liljegren can get it through. He moves incredibly well laterally on the blue line. I think I might have been standing next to you at camp, Patty, when we were watching one of the warm-ups there, and I was like, who's the defenseman skating? Like, he was like the movement along the blue line was like serious, and that's what it ended up being. It was Liljegren at the time. That was 3-4 years ago, whatever it was when they were here. But my point being is that they got a lot of great pieces there. They've had a lot of great relationships. I think that those pipelines are still open and ready for business, because I mean, I don't think LA is sad with the return they got on the Jack Campbell trade or the Jake Muzzin trade. I mean, that turned out pretty good for them. They got roster players, right?
Oh God, yeah. Between Dursey and Trevor Moore, that's two.
Carl Gunstrom was playing.
Playing
a lot of minutes there.
Jersey looks really good. I find it hard to believe, to your point though, that Chychrun's not hasn't been traded. There's got to be something there because that contract, what's he got, 4.5 million with term left on it. Had an amazing year last year. I know he's got some injury concerns. He's had some significant
That's
injuries.
the problem.
For a player of that
I
age,
think.
but
Well,
unless they're asking for a ton, which has to be the case, I think he would be in the Leafs. Like, I'm looking at cap friendly here now. Like, they've got 2 years left of Brody, one of Hall, so I can't see him bringing Hall back next year.
God,
Liljegren and Sandin got 2 each. Connor Timmins is an RFA with 1 year. Giordano got 2 years. Mac Hollowell 1 year RFA. So, like, you're really gonna have to go. I don't know who's unrestricted, but one thing that we've noticed from Dubas, he doesn't really. You may prove me wrong, but I don't think he's built a long-term structure of his team through free agency. He's usually done it through trade.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Chychrun is not, because he likes that controllable part as well, and that term versus cap flexibility. And if Chychrun wasn't hurt, I think everybody'd be throwing prospects and picks at him.
But they also want a lot for him, apparently.
And the rumor
And
was
I mean-
two firsts, grade A prospect and an active roster player was the rumor. That's a lot. For anybody.
That's a lot. Yeah, that is a lot.
And he's just had, like
left.
you said, a huge injury history, between broken ankles and wrists and everything else. And maybe right now, because he was on he was out from an injury, and he just came back, like, what, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, and
He's got
I
3
guess
years
maybe
left of
teams want to
4.6.
see. Okay, I was just going to look that up. Maybe teams just want to see how he does for the first little bit before they.
Fantastic player and a fantastic hit. You can be sure that they're going to ask a lot. However, I mean, 2 firsts, a grade A prospect. When you're talking about grade A, you're talking about your second or third, on your depth chart. So maybe not a Matt Nice, because he's probably number 1 right now, maybe on our depth chart. But next to him, you know what I mean? Like, you're talking about one of your best young players in your minor system, plus a guy like you're going to pluck a Kerfoot off your team, maybe even a better player than Kerfoot. But my point being, you're talking about a major investment. You got to be 100% sure that's going to pay off for starters. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's a fascinating thing. I can't wait to see where he does end up, because you got to figure, with all the dealings that we've done back and forth with
Arizona.
Phoenix. The conversation must have happened by now. It's not like
definitely.
It's not like an elephant in the room that you're avoiding.
I'm just looking here now. He's been back for 10 games and he has 9 points on that crappy.
And
Arizona
I mean,
team.
I've got him in my hockey pool. He shoots a ton. There was one game, maybe second game back, he had 8 shots on net.
Wow.
And I think I said in the last podcast, when was the last time a Leaf defenseman had 8 shots on net or anywhere close to that, above 5?
We have a job to get a forward with that many. When Matthews has a good night, he got 8 or 9 shots on net.
Well, for reference, I have Cale Makar on my fantasy team, and he gets like at least 5 shots a game.
Yeah.
And he's a defenseman.
Now, part of the reason why he shoots a lot is that the depth in Arizona, they've got Keller. They don't have a lot of great forwards up front, so he probably doesn't have a choice. But the fact that he's not afraid to shoot, and he's getting the shots through.
That's the catch, getting them through, right? Because you're still getting them through the same defenses that we're facing, right? So, and again, that's what I always liked about Liljegren. That's what I liked about Cody Franzen. I've never, ever been one of those guys who enjoy watching the defenseman who just rips it and just hope for the best. If it's not going to hit the net, I don't see the point in shooting it. You rim it around more often than not, right? That's why I always hated Brian McCabe. I always hated Dion Phaneuf. When it comes, I liked them as players. There was a lot of stuff about Phaneuf that I really, really loved. But when he lifted that stick to the rafters, I was like, oh God, you just knew it was going high right, But yeah,
my wish list is this is gonna be I don't think Santa Claus can do this one.
No,
Ryan Raleigh and Chychrun. That's my wish list for
my God.
for March.
Cheapers.
Nora went to see Santa Claus
salary
last
retained.
week, and I asked Nora to ask Santa for a Stanley Cup, and he said no. I have to cheer for Edmonton because it's closest toward the North Pole. I said, you got me again, Santa.
Funny.
Yeah, Santa Claus, not a Leafs fan. That's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already knew that.
Yeah, it's not new news.
Clearly.
Well, guys, I think we've loved on the Leafs enough. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
All good.
Right. Well,
Bring on the Ducks.
That's what
Bring on Charlie Conway.
Yeah, they played today or tonight or playing now, whatever. So we got them on a back-to-back. That's great.
Playing Ottawa.
We shouldn't need them on a back-to-back.
No, I know.
They're atrocious.
It's just always a good thing.
But it would be the most Leaf thing possible for them to lose to Anaheim tomorrow night again.
So
That would be
they've been proving us wrong.
They have.
Like we've
But
been
I'm still
going up in games. I mean, 5-0, 4-0, and lovely
holding them.
shutouts back to back.
I
Missing
guess
out.
we finish off by shout out to the sponsor as per usual. There's an interesting actual contest happening on the Delaney Hockey Program Facebook page. I'll link it right there. So if you go to the Delaney Hockey Program Facebook page, you're going to see they've uploaded a new cover photo. Now in this cover photo, there's, we'll just say several reindeer. So all they're asking is that if you can identify how many reindeer are in the picture, send it as a private message. Don't comment on the post. Don't be a tool. Don't give away the answer. If you can find all the reindeer, send a message to Delaney Hockey Program. And if you're correct, you'll be entered in a draw. And the mystery prize has got a $300 value, which will be drawn for on Christmas Day. So not a lot to ask
True
for.
hockey stick.
Quick
True hockey
question.
stick.
That'd
Is
be nice.
there like hidden reindeers, or is it just this obvious?
The hint on the page says it might not be as obvious as you think. So I'm assuming.
I
Look
know.
closely. Look closely. But yeah, it's a great contest, guys. Go check it out. I do know that DHP they're in the process now of registering teams for their annual Christmas tournament, which has been going off in the Harbour Grace Arena now for at least 3 or 4 years. I don't know exactly how many, but it's an annual thing. People look forward to it here. Friends, families, all get together for it. It's a big do. And for the first time, they're putting one off in Port aux Basques as well at DHP West. So again, Linda Massey and crew, they'll be doing a draft style lotto over there, I do believe, where they're going to put together some teams. So unless, of course, they get a ton of teams registered, I guess that's a different scenario. But again, check out DHP West with Linda Massey there. It's all through the same Facebook page. There's an ad up for what you're going to be looking for there for their annual Christmas tournament as well, starting a new tradition out west. So again, big shout out to DHP. That's our sponsor for season 3. Without those guys, we're not sitting here tonight. You can get them at www.delaneyhockey.ca. They're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as we previously mentioned. So, yeah, big shout out to the boys. I don't know if we'll get another one of these in before Christmas, will we? What do you think, guys? It's kind of like.
I think we
I
should.
don't know.
All right. Well, I'm not officially going to say Merry Christmas
I think
yet.
we can.
I think we can too.
No, we'll get one more.
We'll shut her down. Again, thanks so much. If you're following us along, you want to see more of our content, www.deeksnipeselly.ca. You can get us on Facebook.com/DeekSnipeSelly, on Twitter @SellyDeek. We've got an Instagram going. All of the above. If you're looking for the video portion of our podcast, you want to see mine and Patty's beautiful faces, you'll get us at YouTube. You can search Deek Snipe Selly. If you like listening to Kylie's soft, silky voices, you can get her on. Yeah, whatever. You can get her, of course, and the rest of us at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you name it. You got it. Deek Snipe Selly, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. So unless there's anything else from you guys, I think we should shut her down, yeah?
Yep.
Good.
All good. Go Leafs.
Go Leafs. Peace out.